Who are you talking to right now?
Hello movie peeps, I just got done watching the latest live-action Disney remake, The Little Mermaid, and with this interpretation of the story, we are following once again Ariel as she dawns to live above the sea, falling in love and making a sacrifice to try and earn that love. That's all pretty much. I'll give any spoilers to you guys. This will be a spoiler-free review. These live-action Disney remakes, right? You're either at one point or the other with the spectrum. You're either now sick of them, tired of them, want them gone, realizing why does Disney keep doing this? Or you're maybe on the other side of them where you get a real big kick out of them. You enjoy seeing favorite moments from cartoon animated movies that you saw as a kid and you're like, that would be kind of cool to see in live action, and you're like okay with them. For the longest time, I was on that side of the spectrum. I was like, who cares if they're just making these live action remakes? Some of these scenes are cool in live action form, but it's really started to wear me down now that we have gotten bad or bland or just uninspiring remakes after one another. The two most recent ones that I saw was like the Pinocchio and the Peter Pan one. And as a kid, those were like ones I actually really enjoyed watching, because if you were a guy growing up with Disney movies, they didn't have a lot to offer you. You had 100 princesses for the girls and you had like 5 boy movies for the guys. That's why I'm a Hercules man. But the Disney Plus Pinocchio movie I thought was so uninspiring, was a real big letdown. I was so majorly disappointed with that. And the Peter Pan and Wendy one, I wouldn't say is as disappointing. In fact, there's a lot of cool stuff within that movie, specifically dealing with like the relationship between Peter Pan and Hook in that film and how their friendship broke apart. All of that was the most intriguing part of that movie. Everything else, again, just kind of felt bland to me. I wasn't all that into it. I was actually kind of bored watching it. So now coming to the Little Mermaid movie, yeah, I saw the original as a kid. Even the sequel where she had a daughter, I thought that was a fine little movie. To me, honestly, the biggest reason I just wasn't interested in seeing this movie is just because I know once I put a video out talking about it, no matter what my thoughts on this movie are, there is already a couple of a-holes in the comment section just spewing vile hate that like makes this job unbearable at times. But of course, I put all of that to the side when walking into the theater, sitting down to witness it for the first time. It was fine. It was okay. It actually wasn't as bad as some of their previous remakes. But you know the thing that sucks? That's almost like as good as it's gonna get with these live action remakes, because at the end of the day, my biggest litmus test to whether this movie was amazing, mind-blowing, or even worth it is if I in my head can go, is this going to be the movie I replace and show this instead of the original to my future child? I feel like a lot of us have thought about that, or maybe some of us have already gone through that, you know, where we have our favorite movies as a kids and we're like, oh, I can't wait to show them The Little Mermaid or show them Aladdin. And I feel like it's very rare with these remakes that you'll ever come across one where you're like, that was so good, it now replaces the original for me, and that's what I show people. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. Let me talk about the good and what I did enjoy about this movie and why I do think it's better than other remakes. Right off the bat, Halle Bailey as Ariel completely captures the character. Her personality feels just like the one in the original cartoon. Not just that, but all her musical numbers were fantastic, mainly due to her magical voice. The Little Mermaid movie was like one I saw maybe once or twice as a kid, and just hearing those songs unlocked parts of my brain I forgot I had, and it was just a nice nostalgic trip to hear those songs once again. Aside from Ariel though, I think Ursula in here, Melissa McCarthy, I thought she did a fantastic job as Ursula. She had me actually laughing a lot. She leaned into the comedy aspects while still having some really cool kind of menacing moments towards the end of the film. I kind of wish I could have gotten more of Ursula throughout the movie, because every time she's on screen definitely captured my attention. One thing I think this Disney remake does better than maybe other previous installments is adding into the story. I think the original movie is like, what, an hour 20 minutes, an hour 15 minutes? This film is 2 hours and 15 minutes long, meaning there's going to be a lot of wiggle room to do things that weren't in the original cartoon, and I welcome that. Don't just go scene to scene trying to get to the point where you have to do the famous water splash on the rock or do this famous musical number. That was like one of the biggest downfalls with the Pinocchio movie. They did nothing to add to the original source material, and it just felt like scenes trying to get to famous moments from the original cartoon. Prince Eric felt like he had a lot more to do in here. Also, the chemistry between him and Ariel was decent. I'm not going to say it was amazing, but it was decent. I was actually invested into this story with Ariel losing her voice and how the movie went about tackling her trying to get Prince Eric to fall in love with her. And while I think sometimes the CGI in Underwater World isn't going to always look exactly the best, during the musical number of Under the Sea, I loved it. There is one epic giant final battle action sequence with Ursula at the end that had me like almost mesmerized. I love the almost horror take on it, how creepy it felt. I think maybe some younger children might be a little bit creeped out, but it was sequences like that at the end of the film that made me go, things like this are worth watching in live action form. It's stuff like that that you maybe saw in the original cartoon that you're like, oh, that looks nice, but then seeing it in live action form, it brings a different perspective to it, and it almost makes it way more frightening because it is in live action as opposed to how it was originally. So now, before jumping into my negatives again, I think it was fine. I think people who are fans of The Little Mermaid are going to be very pleased and happy to see a lot of those nostalgic moments brought into live action form. They do enough things in here to add to the story and even keep your eyes open that things you weren't expecting to see. But at the end of the day, people who are sick and tired of these live action remakes, I think there's still a lot of things in here that Disney needs to improve upon if they're going to continue to do this. For one, like creatures that are getting turned into live action form, when you strip away all their cartoon characteristics, you know, their big bulgy eyes, their kind of humanoid looks to them, even though they're a crab or a fish or an octopus, it just has a really weird effect once it's turned live action. Like, I get it, that's kind of the point, right? You want to see some of these things done realistically. Yeah, you want to make Flounder look like a regular ass fish, which is all he looks like in the film and is very distracting. Every time Flounder was on screen, I just could not stop laughing at those cross-eyed eyes. Jacob Tremblay as the voice of Flounder did great, but just as looking at the fish itself, it makes me laugh. Sebastian the crab I thought was handled really well, although he was given a realistic form, he was still expressionative, funny. Aquafina as the bird that could apparently breathe underwater for long periods of time. It's like things like this. We're watching a movie about mermaids, magic, you know, drag queens that are half octopuses in here. I think you were given the liberty to make a cartoony looking fish or a creature that sort of resembles the cartoon form, just brought in with live action features. I think there is a realistic way for you to do Flounder the fish, have it look faithful to what it looked like in the animated cartoon, but then just give it live action features here. It's the same problem with like the Lion King movie, just the expressions on these realistic creatures do not come off right, and it's just making me laugh because it feels a little awkward. I also think some people felt very miscast in this movie. I like Javier Bardem as an actor. Here as the king and dad, it just wasn't working for me. While for like the first half of the movie, Prince Eric really was working for me, and his relationship with Ariel, I felt like towards the later half, it just came off more generic and I just didn't feel as into it anymore, especially with the musical number you gave Prince Eric in here. No offense to the actor or anything, but the song they gave you, man, they did you dirty. And that's something else Disney throws into these live action remakes. They want to have an original song so it can be up for Oscar contention when that comes up. They don't just want to rely on the nostalgic beats, but at least create a song that feels like it belongs in this world that's been established for so long. There's a rap song in here, okay? And I was not expecting that. Just kind of like I wasn't expecting it in the live action Aladdin movie either. Feels like that's just something they have to throw in there. I mean, Chip and Dale said it best.
Of course they're rapping. They always have to make the cartoons rap.
And it was even funnier to me when the credits rolled and I saw Lin-Manuel Miranda had a role in here. And I was like, that Kay Hamilton guy, that makes sense. But that's just a personal gripe. I'll say the rap song fit in much more than the Prince Eric song. But kind of my biggest thing with these is, you know, people constantly criticize these live action remakes for being obvious cash grabs. And I mean, that's true to a point. Reminder, every movie that gets released to theaters, their point is to make money and to take your money. They're all cash grabs. But I feel like that connotation wouldn't be there as much if Disney explored these movies more. We've had, what, like 10, 11 live action remakes, and I think only one of them is getting some sort of sequel or prequel, and that's the Lion King movie. That's the one that I think hit $1 billion. So that makes sense to me, but I feel like you have an opportunity with these live action remakes. Is fine. Establish them, set up these characters. Let's now explore the world. You have this awesome, iconic source material. Let's do something with it. Even within the first movie, you could have that opportunity. You're getting bagged on for already ripping from the original. Show them you can do something more than just do the iconic moments from the original thing. And that's what I would kind of like to see Disney do more, is not just make that one live action remake, do the iconic moments, throw in those songs, build up controversies with all these different casting choices, and then abandon the movie once it gets released. We might never even hear about this Little Mermaid world again after this weekend, but I think with the world that it's set up, the characters you have here, there could be something interesting and fun to do. I don't know. That's just my opinion. So when it comes to The Little Mermaid, I'm gonna give action 3 stars. I'll say there's a few set pieces in here at the beginning with like Prince Eric and a burning ship, but other than that, you're not really gonna see like Ariel and Ursula tug at it MMA style. That final sequence with Ursula though is awesome. Comedy in the movie, I'm gonna give it 2 stars. I wish I could say I was laughing a lot throughout the movie. A lot of the jokes will come from Sebastian and Melissa McCarthy as Ursula, but there were times where a lot of the jokes fell flat, where there was something funny said and my theater was completely silent. Drama in the movie, I'm gonna give it 3 stars. I thought they added enough into the Little Mermaid original movie to heighten up some of the characters, build a better relationship between Prince Eric and Ariel. It didn't just feel like the movie was trying to get to the iconic moments, just playing scene after scene. There was some world building in there, which was kind of nice. Horror in the film, I'll give it 1 star too, again, for that final Ursula scene that I thought was awesome, but little kids might be a little bit frightened of it, okay? Just think of a giant monster in the sea, especially if you have a fear of oceans. And suspense in the movie, I'm gonna give it 2 stars. Most of the audience members going to see this movie have already seen the film they're about to watch. It's just in live action form, so you kind of already know what's gonna play out, what's gonna happen, and they don't stray too far away from the source material at times, so you're not always in suspense. Casual fans into the Little Mermaid world, I'm gonna give it an A-. Cinephiles, I'm gonna give it a B+, and critically, I'm going to give it a B-. I think The Little Mermaid is one of the better Disney live action remakes and is worth watching in theaters. It's really an innocent, fine adaptation. It does enough to kind of do a little bit more while not feeling completely lazy. Still, this isn't what I would want them to be. I would want them to progress for better, but we'll see what they do. Let me know what you guys thought about The Little Mermaid if you got around to see it, what you did enjoy about this movie, what you thought they didn't do as good. What do you think the main problem of these live-action Disney remakes are? Anything and everything, be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.